other offices that they've referred you to, but tomorrow is yet another day and the offices should be open. Now, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants has raised concerns about the poor state of finances at South Africa's public schools. Now, the institute says that financial mismanagement has put rural and township schools at a disadvantage. To discuss this further, I am joined in the studio now by the Institute's Julius Mojapelo. He is a senior executive for the public sector. Thank you for your time, Julius.
Thank you.
What is it that raised your interest or made the alarm bells ring for the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants to actually look at this particular issue?
Yeah, I mean, as part of our work in public sector, we have been monitoring the previous different spheres of government and their level of accountability and transparency in the management of public finances. And we've recognized that schools are actually left unnoticed as to how do they account for their finance management. For example, if anyone tried to go and find financial statements of a public school today, you probably won't find them. Even parents sometimes don't have access to the financial statements of a public school. And then digging deeper, we actually found out that there are much more serious problems around the environment in which the financial statement preparation is done. And hence we started calling for more transparency in that environment. Yeah.
You also, in the report, looked at the state of public schools in general. And you went as far as calling the inequalities alarming in South Africa's basic education system. Tell us what it is that you found and what is alarming about it.
Yeah, and the alarming part is, I mean, there's a lot of news has been out there about the hygiene in a lot of the rural schools. There are schools without toilets, there are schools without water. We still have in this day and age where a biggest chunk of our national budget goes to basic education, but you still have schools that do not have classrooms. And the government has allocated money to those schools. So there are either two problems. If there isn't enough money, we need to be able to find money somewhere. But there are instances where the efficiency of the use of the money that's given to schools by government is low. And one of those instances, causes for that is the fact that the people that are managing finances in public schools, a lot of them are not suitably qualified. So somebody was appointed as an admin clerk, and then over time, they've just promoted them to a finance manager, and they expect them to be able to do issues like fundraising, to deal with financial statement preparation, and being able to report to donors. And as a result, the inequality is growing because the former Model C schools have got qualified people on their school governing bodies. When you go to the township and rural schools, you don't have those qualified people. So as a result, if we have to go out there and look for funding, as a public school that is a former Model C schools, your chances of getting funding are much higher than a rural or a township school that has got people that are not necessarily qualified in finance management to be able to put together a funding proposal and back it up with proper financial statements. Even what you will have is that in the former Model C schools, you also have clubs like the Old Boys Club. They would come together, put money together and give it to the school. But how do you come together as township former learners and put money together and give it to a school when you can't even see financial statements? So you wouldn't even be able to ask the principal, where did that money that we contributed go to? So that lack of accountability is creating a trust deficit between the donors and the public schools. The ones that actually need these donations the most are the ones that are not able to access it. The ones that actually have fee-paying parents that are able to pay are the ones that are continuing to benefit from this donor system into the public school environment.
You've highlighted a lot of this in your response now, but if you could, in summary, highlight the ABCs of the importance of having financial statements for public schools. Yes, granted, they are receiving a huge portion, a huge chunk of their finances from government, from basic education. Yeah. But why is it important for them to actually have those accurate financial records?
Yeah, I think the first one is accountability. I think as parents, when you put your learner into a school, whether you are paying school fees or not, you actually want to know that the funds that were given to the school have been used for their intended purpose. Every year, a school prepares a budget and makes a commitment to the parents that we're going to do a few things during the year. The financial statements close that accountability loop, so that everyone can understand whether the funds that were given to the school and entrusted in the SGB have been used for their intended purpose. So financial statements become very important, but then they become also an instrument for the school to be able to approach donors. As in terms of the South African Schools Act, one of the key priorities of the SGB is to actually look for supplementary funds to supplement the money that has been given to them by the Department of Education.
And without financial statements, you cannot really go out into the market and raise those funds.
No one will invest in a company without financial statements, and no one is going to put their money in a public school without proper financial statements.
So as far as that Section 42B of the SA Schools Act, it does require each province to put together their own guidelines for the compilation of financial statements. Is there oversight on this? And is there a follow-through on this particular act? Is it actually been implemented?
This is one of those regrettable sections of the South African Schools Act, because it has created an instance where financial statements of public schools in the 9 different provinces don't look the same. You would want to have a situation where there's uniform principles for preparing financial statements, and we have been in talks with the National Department of Basic Education to develop uniform guidelines for all provinces. We have also been involved in reviewing the provincial guidelines to say, let's try and get some uniformity so that when we get that national document, you are not too far away from it. So that discrepancy and the inconsistencies is also another cause, because not all provinces have the same capacity. There are provinces that don't have capacity to develop those guidelines. So if you go to them today, you actually you have a financial statement without a balance sheet. You've got financial statements that cannot show you how much school fees a school received. So the lack of consistency in the guidelines is actually affecting the transparency and accountability as well.
So how far are you as the Institute of Chartered Accountants in the talks that you are having with basic education, and what role do you foresee yourself playing in the future?
Yeah, we have been very blessed in that a lot of the departments have welcomed us, because they have recognized that there's a need for us to work together with them in the guidelines. We are in a very advanced stage with the department at national level, where we've given our inputs and suggestions around what would a national guideline look like. We are already working with a lot of provinces to review their provincial guidelines, but we've also gone as further as starting to train the school governing body around preparation of financial statements. As we speak now, there are workshops happening around Gauteng, where we are training governing bodies around how do you prepare financial statements. And this project is going to start rolling out. We're going to KZN, we are going to Limpopo Province and Western Cape. So we are looking as an institute at capacitating the school governing body, because when our members go to audit financial statements of public school and they are not well prepared, it just takes longer and it makes the process more expensive. But most importantly, it impairs the objectivity and independence of our members, because they get there and the schools have an expectation that they must fix the financials and also audit them. That's like writing and marking your own homework. It creates a big challenge in that space.
And as you say, you need the source information to work from as a basis in the first place. But we thank you so much for your time. That's Julius Mojapelo there. He is a Senior Executive for Public Sector at the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, really just trying to get the 1 + 1 to equal 2 as far as basic education is concerned, and keeping the records and accurate records of their financials. We're going to go